Today, the Supreme Court heard arguments in the most serious challenge to Roe versus Wade in decades. A law in Mississippi is being debated, which allows a woman 15 weeks to decide whether or not she wants to have an abortion. Now, if you're a sensible person, you're probably thinking 15 weeks doesn't sound that unreasonable. It's nearly 4 months. Still longer than most countries in the world, almost all countries in the world allow, including most of Europe, allow women to decide whether to terminate a pregnancy and end a growing human life. France, for example, a liberal bastion, a place high-minded leftists love to boast of traveling to, summers in Saint-Tropez, fall in Paris. Well, in France, women get 12 weeks to figure out whether or not they want to abort a pregnancy. And the French, as liberal as they are fine with that. But here in the United States, the idea of laws prohibiting abortion at 15 weeks, when a baby has arms and legs, fingernails, eyelashes, can yawn, sucks their thumbs, that idea is so enraging that pro-choice protesters start popping abortion pills like Tic Tacs on the steps of the Supreme Court. Take a look.
Abortion! Abortion!
I mean, they're so stupid, you just have to laugh at them. You know, God bless them, I guess. Some more information on this, though, real information. Only 7 of the 59 countries in the world that actually allow abortion without restriction as to reason allow those abortions after 20 weeks. Those 7 countries include Canada, Netherlands, us, North Korea, Singapore, Vietnam, and China. So we're in some pretty interesting company, I would say. There's about 200 countries in the world, so it suffices to say that the United States is insanely liberal on abortion when you consider that in places like Colorado and Alaska, you can literally have an elective abortion a day before you go into labor. Isn't that crazy? Today, Justice Sonia Sotomayor clashed with Mississippi's Solicitor General, Scott Stewart, over when a fetus can feel pain. She makes one of the most bizarre and ridiculous claims of the entire day. Take a listen.
There's about 40% of dead people who, if you touch their feet, the foot will recoil. There are spontaneous acts by dead brain people. So I don't think that a response to by a fetus necessarily proves that there's a sensation of pain or that there's consciousness.
Okay, so you start prodding a baby inside of a woman, and that doesn't mean there's consciousness? Again, it's a stretch. I mean, these people are grasping for anything. I think they know they've way outkicked their coverage on this deal, and they have for the last 50 years. Justice Brett Kavanaugh enraged the left today by pointing out that there is more to this decision than just the mother.
There are 2 interests at stake. That there's also the interest in fetal life at stake as well. And in your brief, you say that the existing framework accommodates, that's your word, both the interest of the pregnant woman and the interest of the fetus. And the problem, I think the other side would say, and the reason this issue is hard, is that you can't accommodate both interests. You have to pick.
Yeah, maybe, in some cases. Well, that statement didn't sit well with Cecily Richards, the former president of Planned Parenthood, tweeted this out. There were many horrifying statements during the SCOTUS hearing. Low point, though, was Kavanaugh's statement that this case is hard because we can't accommodate the interests of both the women and the fetus. It was clear who he was prioritizing, and it isn't women. Now, the problem with this debate has always been polarization, right? We got a lot on one side, we got a lot on the other. And there's not a lot of people that agree with the far reaches of either side. That's the truth. That is the truth. The left has convinced women that any attempt toward more moderate abortion regulation is literally America becoming the Handmaid's Tale. If women can't abort freely and for any reason at 7 months, 6 months, 8 months, they're obviously just baby-making machines living in a dystopian future world run by evil, powerful, faceless men. That's what they sell these people. That's why you get idiots popping abortion pills on the steps of the Supreme Court. They don't know anything about this. They just know they're mad. And the nonsense has reached new heights this time around as some of the stupidest people in Congress, of which there are many stupid people, are weighing in. Ayanna Pressley, one of the dumbest ones that's ever walked those halls, tweeting out abortion bans are racist and rooted in white supremacy. Now, it's difficult to process how stupid a person would have to be to make a statement like that. As we all know, the founder of Planned Parenthood is Margaret Sanger, who was a huge supporter of eugenics, believing in improving the human race through selective breeding, often targeted at poor people, those with disabilities, immigrants, and people of color. She wanted to just get them out. Let's get those people out of the bloodlines. How hard she must be laughing, looking down on all of this and all the people supporting her work in the Democrat Party. People like Ayanna Pressley. I mean, she must be cracking up wherever she is. Her work is paying off, though. Listen to these numbers. In New York, between 2012 and 2016, black women terminated 136,000 pregnancies while only giving birth to 118,000 babies. Aborting more than they're birthing. That's insane. Any white supremacist with a half a brain would not only support Roe versus Wade, but would be petitioning for a Planned Parenthood on every block in black neighborhoods. They'd be out there with the girls on the steps of the Supreme Court popping the abortion pills. It's amazing. It gets even better. On MSNBC, former New York mayoral candidate Maya Wiley effectively said, if you aren't white, you should always abort pregnancies.
If you are black, if you are Native American, you have a higher likelihood of risk of physical health issues and death if you take a child to term than if you abort a fetus.
She was almost the mayor of New York. I mean, she would have fit right in with de Blasio. She's a moron. Brilliant take there. She just championed the extermination of all non-white people. That was her point on MSNBC. How crazy is this debate? It's wild. As for the simple politics surrounding this case, they're inescapable, of course. Justice Sonia Sotomayor suggested the Supreme Court wouldn't survive if they even questioned the validity of Roe versus Wade. Take a listen.
Will this institution survive the stench that this creates in the public perception that the Constitution and its reading are just political acts?
But politics has been a part of the Roe v. Wade decision since the beginning. The ruling was decided on political lines as opposed to legal scholarship. One of the cornerstones of Mississippi's argument is the claim that Roe unnecessarily inflamed an issue that might otherwise be less polarizing. Wouldn't that be nice? It asserts that only by undoing this mistake can the court break the national fever on abortion. Their authority for this claim is actually, and very interestingly enough, late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ginsburg, a Democrat, of course, never wanted to see the Supreme Court completely withdraw constitutional protection for abortion rights, of course. However, in both 1984 and again in 1992, she suggested that the court should have given state legislatures limited guidance and allowed them to work out new policies when it comes to abortion, as she claimed they were doing before Roe changed everything. According to the Washington Post, such modest measures, she wrote, instead of the sweeping policy laid out in Roe, might have prevented the rancor surrounding abortion rights that has been so much a part of our post-Roe politics. It was divisive. She admits it. At the end of the day, no sensible woman should be threatened by a 15-week ban on elective abortion. Even blood-red Mississippi will be more liberal than Europe if this law passes. Just digest that. Say it about 10 times. Mississippi, more liberal than France, than Europe. So much of this debate is manufactured outrage. Tonight, our friend Joy Reid over at MS tweeted about Justices Thomas and Kavanaugh, both accused of sexual crimes, she said, deciding on women's rights. Oh, she gasps. Well, Joy, Here's one of your favorite people, another man accused of sex crimes, fighting for your side.
I support Roe v. Wade. I think it's a rational position to take, and I continue to support it.
Joe Biden, the president, a steadfast supporter of women's rights, at least today. Here's a statement from Biden back in 1974 to the Washingtonian. I don't like the Supreme Court decision on abortion. I think it went too far. I don't think that a woman has the sole right to say what should happen to her body. Good old Joe. I mean, how many times can we see this guy flip? The only way you can make it in politics, as long as Joe Biden has, is if you hold no real position on anything.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.